Hi, I'm Asher. Welcome to Jackass. Welcome back to Kerbal Space Program 2, where today we're going to be doing a balance of fighting with the game and also trying to relive the glory days of Kerbal Space Program 1. Let's go to the tracking station because truly I'm not going to be reliving. We're going to be going somewhere that I did not go to, the only place I didn't go to in Kerbal Space Program 1, Dres, the new golden child in Kerbal Space Program 2, complete with ring system and planetary ridge. This dwarf planet just is content with hanging out with the other planets, or so it is told here. We'll zoom out real quick. The thing about Dres is that it was boring in Kerbal Space Program 1. That was kind of the idea, the meme as it were. Dres was just a thing that existed. It's kind of on an inclined orbit from the ecliptic for the rest of the system, as you can even see here as we zoom around a little bit. So it's a bit annoying to get to, but we're going to get to it today. And we are going to be having some fun specifically with this ridge. I've set some Kerbals on a challenge to see who can make the best rover to actually jump and go sky high off of that ridge and see how far they can go across the planet. Now, just like I said, there's some goals here versus style points, distance traveled. Can you jump far enough to get on a ballistic trajectory to reach the ring system? I don't know. We're going to visit that ring system too. Let's go to the vehicle assembly building to see where we are at. And you're going to see me speeding up here through the vehicle assembly building because, oh man, if you've experienced anything in this game, you know that this can be a big exercise of frustration. But here we go. We are building what is a trebuchet concept, essentially. My goal is to launch that command module. And you can see that trying to even make a trebuchet arm here where I have something pushing down to launch the other thing up, we get a few crackety bugs in the VAB. This is not time accelerated here. That was literally how fast it was going. But you see that I do have a few just ideas of how to make things work, trying to shove things in there. And yeah, it breaks. It moves around on its own. Eventually, kind of, sort of, maybe... Kerbal Space Program 2, the game where you have to decide to yourself, do I want to fight the game today to play it? And that is a tough decision because these kind of things, maybe it wouldn't necessarily work, but I could at least test and see. Eventually, we do get a cart here. We do kind of get a trebuchet on here. We do get some wheels that I had to individually snap on here. And now it's just trying to mount any kind of fuel tanks, any kind of engines, because once again, this is all going to be stuff that is rocket powered on Dres to try to make it move. I could always just use RCS or something, but where's the fun in that? Also, very nice touch in Kerbal Space Program 2, at least, that I can plop engines onto the back of these. Let's turn it up a little bit. And this is our first test run, or one of them. Alright, so there's once again supposed to be a whole catapult at the end of this. It's a bug I got to work out in another rover that I didn't get to work here. There we go. Now we're a little unsteady, which is going to be interesting on Dres because it's not going to be flat, even ground like this. And we're still going to have to try to hill climb a little bit. But yeah, we're at 103 meters per second. That's... And now we're finally getting some lift. So overall, that's not the worst. We're technically just doing a wheelie, right? Oh, look, there's water under us. It's a really long launch pad. There we go. And we're flying. Look, single stage to orbit, right? No, okay. Come on, do a flip. Do another flip. Do another flip. Tim C is just having a good time, right? Well... Oh, look, one of those is just... We had the wheel survive. Here we go. Science. And back to the drawing board with that. One of the issues, as you saw, is that this is trying to load in as two different sets of spaceships. But now another issue is that this is just strictly from a reload, is that we have 1, 2, 3 different launcher arms. Why? Why do we have 3? I don't know. I never copied and pasted. You can Control C and Control V in this game. But that's weird. Anyway, eventually decided, you know what, we can try to make this just a little bit more stable by adding struts, adding some thicker things in the middle there. Maybe there'll be some collision detection to make things kind of work a little better. But once again, another one of the issues is that I had to do this to make it so that it would all be one vehicle. So checking staging, deleting the trusses and stuff, and back to the drawing board, of course. And oh, that happens to everybody from time to time. Just clipping through stuff. But here is our launch. And you can see it's just a little bit of a faster go here. We're not clipping through here entirely, but you can see the solid state booster. The goal of that is going to be to push down so that we can launch who's now Valentina Kerman up here. So here we go, and that works okay. We could probably use a little more power there, and there's Valentina disappearing into the void, but test again. That's the goal of science, is that test, you test again. Here's 3 solid state boosters. Do we have it this time? So we're going to turn up the speed a little bit. One of the interesting things, as I've mentioned probably a few times in the previous recording, is that Dres is very different environmental conditions. So there's no atmosphere we're trying to push through. There's very little gravity we're having to fight. Think around Minmus levels. But here is your downward launch, and that looks... That's the idea. That is literally what I'm trying to do off of one of the ridges of Dres, is to trebuchet a capsule here. Now maybe we'll have to do a little bit of cheating to make sure it doesn't immediately explode, but that's why we put the heat shields on there. We don't... What is stability? Try to do some different things with staging, and what do you get? The gravity on Dres is much lower than the gravity on Kerbin, so this could work a lot better, potentially. So... fire away. There we go. One of the challenges we'll have, obviously... There we go. Everything's exploding. Looks good! Oh, we almost lived! Okay, well, science. Again, we have one little piece that's still going. But one of the challenges will be that we have a space rover that is going to be going faster. That's one reason we're going to try to launch at the top of the hill or the top of the mountain, at the top of the ridge. But we do have 2 other ships, and like I said, I didn't want to slog the video by having the build for all 3, so I'm just going to go ahead and briefly, if we don't crash here, which I've had a few crashes loading into the VAB from recovering a ship, and weirdly there are graphic cards crashes, which is never great when it happens here. So let me load up the 2 other vehicles, assuming I can find them. This is the Yeeter D 3.0 No, which you can see... Nothing says good rover like let's have a nuclear rocket attached to some fuel here, and we're just going to see how far we can push this capsule. And inside this capsule is once again going to be Bob Kerman, although Bob could come in with some friends as well. We'll have to see exactly who we're going to be packing in here. But if the idea for the last one is to launch like a trebuchet, the idea for this one is to simply throw something off of the side of the Dres ridge here. Now, to that effect, I did cheat a little bit. I did put some Sepatrons here just to make sure that this gets out of the way, because we don't want the test to fail before it can even get started. Let's go ahead and hit the launch button. If I remember right, I may need to reorient this a little bit, so there we go. First off, something's on a crashing trajectory. That's always a good sign. Failure on linkage, and something was destroyed here immediately. I think... we should be able to go for some reason. It's not letting us go. That's not a great start. Let's try to revert to launch, because this definitely worked earlier. There definitely hasn't been a patch in Kerbal Space Program 2. It'd be ironic if suddenly this was just dying and not wanting to launch, because it worked before and it worked pretty well. So there we go. It's bouncing. It's not dead this time. So consistent behavior. That's what we want here. Of course, I am launching on the wrong side here. I need to rotate the ship so it's pointing the correct direction. But let's fire up the nuclear engine here. So that's exciting. Oh, wait, we have countdown music, I guess. And we have a little bit of a slow roll here. This nuclear engine is just taking hydrogen and spitting out the hydrogen gas. So clearly nothing bad can happen here. I guess one of my questions is, are we going right now? I think we are. Like, I hear the music, I see the fuel plumes. This is heavy shit. Originally, I had 2 nuclear engines popped onto the back of there because why the hell not? But as you can see, stability is not exactly a strong suit for this rover either, because quite frankly, getting the wheels to lock on and everything kind of sucks. Now, granted, I have trusses there. I've seen other people build rovers and videos since then that they like kindly and happily build around the trusses and stuff. But that's not what we're doing here. We're just going to try to go over to the forest here. We could try to climb up that mountain if we really wanted to. It's a really long runway, but let's we have as much thrust as we can. Remember, we are going to have to just try to work our way upwards just a little bit. So let's see if we can get up to like the end of the runway towards the trees. And remember, we're going to be going uphill on this. That's why we have a lot of fuel. Not a ton of Delta V for whatever reason. I don't know if I want to Sepatron first or this first. I guess the game's going to remember the staging better than I do. But we're going to find out. This is why we science it. This is why we test it. Here we go. So maximum thrust. Here comes the forest, which I think does actually have collision detection. So if you've never been to this part of Kerbal Space Center, welcome, and let's launch. And there's our rover. And these things really need to have a little bit of improvement with impact mitigation, but that's a fun idea. Like I said, these are not supposed to be good rovers. This is, if you want like professional grade, look at these really good builds. There are plenty of YouTube places here. We're just here for fun and silliness and trying to pull the fun out of a bug-ridden mess. Like, please understand. You want serious missions, we need some serious fixes to the game engine. I'd love to have like docking ports and shit. Actually, one of the other missions I've been thinking about is trying to build a mega robot on Eve, using the soupy atmosphere to be able to try to put parts up to actually do some on-planet docking. One of the issues with that, of course, is docking ports kind of buggy right now. But yeah, so far this terrible shopping cart looking thing. Oh look, we have some like under mountain, or maybe those are sand traps for the Kerbal golfing here. But yeah, we're totally like throwing a nuclear engine away. That's fine. Stage and stage. The goal for those Sepatrons is just to keep it ahead and not have a nuclear explosion immediately with everything else, but it works. It works fine. All things considered. And so, with those 2 rovers, that leaves us with the last rover, which, let's not get too excited about it, because first I have to actually find the rover. You know, it's interesting if a little frustrating, because I definitely had the 3rd rover available in here, and since we can't actually, all the loading vehicle stuff, there's no, like, workspace here. They have this idea for these save systems, and it just is not functional right now. The original rover, the very first one that I built, I'm going to have to rebuild it right now. So, once again, what was one of my big concerns in that other video? Saving and loading issues. So here's the 3rd rover, called the Do Not Delete Me. And we're getting some more buggy messes here for this buggy. It's not the exact same as what I built before, but the idea is there. And I'm wondering too if I just put Septitrons on it just to see if we can have it go up. But this is kind of the idea, hopefully. Having to fight the game to enjoy the game. Is that really worth it? Oh, we're on the launch pad. Well, let's see. 3, 2, 1. Woo! Launch pad! We're not dead. Bob is just hanging out. This is fine. Everything is fine. EVA is disabled, though. Look. We didn't make it. But we didn't explode. Okay, here we go again. Once again, this should not be bouncing. It was not bouncing before. Like, this is supposed to be attached over here. I can probably fix that in a second. But let's see what happens when we don't go full throttle. Because I wonder how much of that instability... The original design of this was actually able to make it all the way down the runway to the ocean. And now the game has just left me with a disaster. So that's fine. Alright, bigger wheels, some struts, no panel on where the chair's supposed to be. Surely this will go just fine. So we got all of our big engines here. We got 2 fuel tanks worth of shit. And the goal here is just to take a rover and take it straight up all the way down to Dres, which, by the way, I guess one of the key questions is, given the state of the game, how in the hell are we ever going to get these rovers to Dres? This one, I think I can launch it in a rocket, put a fairing around it, and hope for the best. But there's those big ones there, honestly. Okay, so that's okay. But honestly, what I think I'm going to need to do is just cheat. And once we make the one landing to Dres, we just, with the power of television, put the other 2 rovers on Dres and let them get in position for a good old hill climb, which is going to be a hilarious nightmare in of itself. I have under no illusions of that. See, the nice thing is that we have a ton of Delta V, and maybe this will let us park other rovers. What the hell does this mean? I don't know. Foul language. But let's see if we can get to Dres, or let's see if this suddenly disassembles before even launching. Surely something in Kerbal Space Program 2 can work. Please tell me I'm launching this off the runway. Oh god, I didn't put struts. And I am launching it off the runway. Alright. So, hey guys! This is not what I meant to do at all. Okay, it's cool. At least we're pointing in the right direction, maybe? Maybe not. Yeah, we kind of put the rocket in the wrong place. Okay. All right. Are we pointed the correct direction this time? I don't know. Maybe this time we will fly towards the ocean. But we should have more than enough Delta V to do all this. As we have Bob Kerman bravely flying. My name is Bob Kerman, and this is Jackass. This is the worst episode of Jackass I've ever seen. Alright. Like, wasn't someone supposed to get hit in the balls by now? We have definitely sudden rotation. As we are in the supersphere. This is where having struts on this rocket would probably help a lot. You see, we just got a little bit of a shake, rattle, and roll here. Could probably ditch this stage and be okay, but we don't want to be going like horizontal right now. Bob's like, this is fine. I'm literally piloting this from, like, a lawn chair. Let's not forget that. So for those of you who do not know, flying the Dres is kind of annoying, which is one of the reasons I didn't go to it in Kerbal Space Program 1. Since the orbit is not on the same plane as Kerbin, you do actually have to kind of do some mid-course corrections, but all I'm trying to do here is to get my first burn in place, which is to put me out essentially. I try to cheat here. I want to see if I can get a good ejection burn, and we get this instead. Maneuver node. That might be the greatest lie a maneuver node has ever told me in my life. Maybe we don't pass through the planet. So we're trying here again, trying to stage out. And you can see we have fairings attached to engines again. So that's very exciting. This is on a separate launch, separate save, separate anything here. You're going to see a lot of saving and reloading as once again we have the maneuver nodes moving and shaking and trying to move around here. But one of the issues is that with that janky launch before, we don't have nearly as much delta V as I'm supposed to have here to go ahead and get to Dres. Because what you need to do is to get your orbit all the way out there, and I kind of underestimated just how weak some of these engines would feel. It's not about strength or weakness. It's about how efficiently you can burn out into space. And right now, it is going to reload. And that is literally just a live reload. I know it's dark on the screen, but hopefully you can see where there's no Kerbin. All right. No Kerbal on there, excuse me. So this is the doing it correctly and properly. I will spare you watching me have to fight my way through the supersphere, just having a hell of a time trying to get the launch to actually like work and do a proper gravity turn. That took a lot of time, and that's another point of frustration for another day, because we're here and we're doing the Dres encounter sorta kinda correctly. This is not the best place to catch the orbit, because anytime after kind of our apoaps, we're going to have to be catching up to Dres. But you can see I'm trying to really fight the maneuver nodes here. So we have just our original burn, our mid-course correction, trying to get closer to Dres. Here's our, it looks actually more like a train, which is exciting. But there's Dres. You can see the ring. So this is Bob Kerman encountering Dres. It's not a very, like, long place here. Remember, Dres is just floating around the sun with very little gravity, so we're gonna have to do some work here to slow ourselves down. And you see we have some delta V left. We got our fuel tank with stuff, and look at this maneuver node that says, and we've encountered this in some of the Moons and Jewel, where it says we have to do a ridiculous amount of burning. But that's okay. We have our basic fuel tank. We don't need all of our rover fuel to get there, so you're gonna see me once again wandering around trying to find where's Dres, and more importantly, where's my engine? That was just literally from a burn, and now we're kind of stuck. Like, the engine just disappeared. So go to the other stage here. We have no reaction wheels. We are literally just Super Mario Kart floating around in space. And here's our periaps, which fortunately we do kind of have an ejection angle burn. And this isn't from a maneuver node, this is from the actual orbital plane here. So Bob just floating around in a lawn chair, spinning. There's Dres, which is very pretty with the ring. Remember that. It's very pretty with the ring. And we're just trying to get our photo op in. And as we get closer, I do start to realize that our orbit has, like, really changed. Before, our periaps was bringing us into and under the ring system, and now it's not. So not even just maneuver nodes, the game itself keeping things inconsistent. We have already overshot Dres. We are flying away. I don't know if we have the fuel to do it, so you know what we do? We just Save you all a lot more time recording. There was so much recording from failed launches here. Just to try and go. So this is us getting an actual Dres encounter with an actual periapse. With an actual, what's the word for it? Maybe hope of survival here. So here is just the reload, and where's the rings? Like I said, this is a very beautiful planet with the new ring system, part of one of the big appeals of Kerbal Space Program 2, some of these graphical updates. And look, you can reload it, the rings reappear, but I have no maneuver node line. I'm just kind of here, and it's a weird stability thing that's going to be an issue for the rest of this run. If I load in and I see rings, I don't see my actual, like, path. So that's a little tough here, but we're just going to try to land. You know what? This is one of those things where we have a rover. We can just land. You can see the Equatorial ridge right there. That's our goal. That's our ramp. And of course, I'm kind of flying in maybe not near one of the big slopes, but honestly, from the surface, it all looks pretty big, right? We're just out in space, so right now we're losing control because, once again, what's a reaction wheel? We're just flying the murder train out into space here and getting towards ground, and oh boy. Bob, I'm making that face too. So we are going to land on Dres, but our engine just detached. Now, that a little bit of that is moving out of time acceleration, as you can see. I'm extra accelerating the video here. But, oh man, I'd barf pretty hard, and there goes Bob. Bob's down. Eventually do get a happy little circularized orbit. We're not going to talk about how many launches this is. It's not that I'm sick of Dres, I'm sick of the game doing game things. There's a graphical glitch on the ring. There's Kerbal. I will get that right one day. But we do actually have an encounter, and that's kind of nice. So what's the goal here? The goal here going forward is that we are going to do some hill jumping here in the future. And like I said, this is the one ship that I thought I could launch to Dres. But unfortunately, what was going to be one video, be short, sweet, fun, is turned into this garbage where we're going to have one video for the arrival and the bugs and the testing, and already my orbital plane has changed. I was supposed to be passing through the rings here, and the game, once again, not being super consistent. But next video is going to be probably shorter than this one, and we're going to have some fun. I'm going to do some landing onto Dres, which is its own adventure, but then we're going to do what finally the people came here for, which is bring over some other ships and make it work. So, this is Asher. Hope you enjoyed this terrible episode of Jackass. We'll do it again soon. Take care.